Right, so let's call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock on Monday, January 8th. I just need to find my, thank you. And our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I have to do the preamble. And our next order of business is the preamble. So pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless required by law. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. Viewers can visit www.pac-tv.org/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming on Duxbury YouTube, to watch replays and video on demand. Alrighty, the next order of business is open forum, which is if anybody here has brought something that they would like to bring forward for another meeting. It's nothing that we can deliberate on tonight, but if you have something you'd like to bring up for our consideration for a later meeting or just to let us know, now's your time to do it. If you're if you're speaking, you need to go up to the podium and give us your name and address. First of all, is there anybody on the board that has anything for open forum?
Briefly, Madam Chair, I just want to recognize and acknowledge Representative Josh Cutler. Everybody read on Friday or Monday over the weekend that he's been appointed to a position in the administration. And I just personally, as a friend, want to thank Josh for all his great work on behalf of the district and wish him well.
Thank you very much, Brian. We're going to miss him. He worked hard for the town of Duxbury.
Did a great job. He will be missed.
He will be missed. All right, is there anybody in the audience that has anything to bring up? No, okay. Chris Latazzi, do you have something to say?
I do. Happy New Year to everyone. Nice to see everybody, and I'm glad that we aren't having plowable snow or outages this week. I wanted to just take a minute to let the select board know that we'll be having a community open forum next Wednesday, January 18th at 6:30 p.m. at the Duxbury Bay Maritime School. And the topic is going to be about coastal resiliency. The speakers are going to be from Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management, discussing the significance of barrier beaches and the latest in coastal resiliency projects. We'll have a speaker from Woods Hole Group speaking about specifically coastal resiliency projects that have happened on Duxbury Beach, and the one that is slated to be kicked off in a couple of weeks that is at the eastern abutment of the Powder Point Bridge, a cobble berm, which will also impact the way that we currently access the beach, or the back road, if you will. And then third, talking a little bit about the protection of Duxbury Beach affords to the towns, the surrounding areas, not just Duxbury, but the other towns as well. Kind of a precursor to an economic analysis study that we had done to look at what would occur if Duxbury Reservation maintains the current coastal resiliency projects, and if we did not, what the impacts would be. So I wanted to invite everybody to join us. I think it'll be a really good opportunity to hear from different people and their expertise regarding the work that's being done on behalf of the town of Duxbury.
Thank you. Can you say again when and where?
Sure. It's going to be on next Thursday, January 18th and that is at 6:30 p.m.
Mhm.
It'll be held at the Duxbury Bay Maritime School at Clifford Hall.
Okay,
And there'll be some social media advertising about it, but I didn't want it to get lost in all of the holiday emails I think we all received. So wanted to give a shout out and hope the board can join us.
thank you very much, Chris.
Madam Chair, can I just ask, Chris,
Yes.
will there be a Zoom link or a remote opportunity for that?
Yes, we're working on that right now. We just had to change the date from Wednesday to Thursday. So we were going to have it on Wednesday, so I'm assuming we'll have it on Thursday. We have a remote sign up, and we'll put the link up there like we did for the last meeting.
Thank you.
Super, great.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Okay.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. Oh, my goodness. So our next order of business is recognition and proclamation for Eagle Scout Matthew Najame. Are you Matthew? Welcome. What I'd like to do is to read the proclamation, and
Do you have a copy of it?
I do, yeah. So, I resolve to honor Matthew Najame's Eagle Scout project entailed the procurement and installation of no idling signs at the Duxbury Public Schools to assist in combating climate change by mitigating carbon emissions from buses and vehicles during student pickup. And whereas Matthew Najame contributed to and wrote 2 books about carbon emissions and climate change and advocated for a version in a dyslexia font for children with reading disabilities. And whereas Matthew Najame's Eagle Scout project will preserve and protect the environment from harmful pollutants and provide a greater awareness to the community. And whereas Matthew Najame has been involved in scouting since kindergarten and is currently a junior at Duxbury High School, his project will serve as an inspiration for future Eagle Scouts. We wish him well in his future endeavors. Now therefore be it resolved on the 6th day of January, this is from last week because I do know the date, from last week because you actually received it at your ceremony on Saturday. Be it resolved that the town of Duxbury, through the Select Board and town manager, do hereby commend Matthew Najame on attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Very good.
All right, congratulations.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Yeah.
You get to shake all of our hands.
Congratulations. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Wrong hand.
It's impressive.
Yes,
Congratulations.
you're right.
Oh, really?
Really
Yeah,
impressive.
congratulations.
Thank
I'm a
you.
little out of practice.
Yeah. I hope your ceremony went well. And
Did.
Yeah,
That
good.
was really nice.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much.
And Madam Chair, thanks to Mike to
Yes.
attended to present this in person.
Yes, thank you, Mike, very much for doing that. I appreciate it. Okay. All right, Amy, we are going to become water and sewer commissioners.
I move that the Select Board adjourn the meeting in order to meet as the Water and Sewer Commissioners with the intent of reconvening as the Select Board afterward.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Hello. Do you want to present this, Mark, or?
Sure. Mark Cloud, Water and Sewer Superintendent. I have 2 abatements. The first one is for Checkerberry Circle, which is 4 homes. We've recalculated what we'd like the abatements to be. They were based on 2 different calculations. The residence was based on what the rate that they're currently using, and I was able to calculate their bills. And then with the developer, I calculated how many days he had the meter and prorated the bill off of how many days the developer used the water meter to come up with those 2 different rates for bills.
That was a lot of work.
Can I ask you a question on this? Just because I think this is the 3rd conversation we've had about this, so I'm a little bit confused as to what is happening with these and why the further adjustments? Is the developer resisting his portion of the water bill? Is my
Yeah,
question.
yes, Mary McKinnon had asked me to recoup as much of the bill as I could, and I've tried several different ways to make it fair as I could, but I only had certain numbers to work off of. So trying to make everybody happy has taken me 3 times.
But the water was used in some fashion. We know that the water was consumed.
Yes,
And through some errors in assessing who the responsible party for the water use was, it has resulted in, it seems to me that there should be, and I guess you've done this, so you've calculated from the date that the homeowners moved in, and then assessed the developer, Mr. Dacey, for the water usage up until that date.
yes.
So it seems like it shouldn't be this complicated.
That would be nice.
I think there are some
the pro-
administrative,
The
I
problem
think,
is the developers stating that the residents probably they were there for the summer months and probably used a majority of the water for the irrigation, and he may be correct, but I don't have anything to base that off of. There's no starting and stopping point between when the developer turned over the home. But it just really doesn't give me anything to work off of.
Yeah, no, and I don't, and I'm, obviously you have tried and worked hard on trying to resolve this. It's just,
yeah,
you know,
It's just
unfortunate.
right. Anybody else, Mike or Brian, have any?
No, I want to hear more about this because to Amy's point, my concern is that if there was water consumed, water needs to be paid for. They shouldn't be shouldered by the rest of the ratepayers. So I know you've been equitable in terms of coming to a number, and this is why I want to hear from the Dacey's as to how we're going to make this right for the ratepayers, because there's a development, water's been used, all the water needs to be paid for somehow. How are we going to do that? And I know you've done a lot of work with it, and I'd just like to understand better the nature of the dispute.
You want me to speak?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Sarah Dacey. I think you are right. This is the 3rd meeting that this has been talked about. The first meeting, we were not made aware of it previously, so I think that's why we weren't there. The second meeting, it wasn't on the agenda, so this is the first one I think we're both at. So just to clarify, we did get final readings on all 4 of those homes. We were given 0 readings at the time. We did offer to pay pro rata based on when the meter was installed and then when the final reading date was, which we believe is, just in good faith. We don't believe that we used that much water before because it was in the winter months and the irrigation wasn't running. But we do agree that we would be offering to pay the pro rata amount based on the gallon usage between the meter the meter install date and this last bill. So.
But you're disputing, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand, but you are disputing the amount of water you feel that you didn't use that because of the winter months?
Yes, we don't feel that we used 500 gallons a day for the entire time that it was on the house, because they were installed between like December and March is when they were installed, and we closed like April and May. Those were the closing dates of those 4 houses.
Can I just ask, so Mark, is this like a meter error, or do we have some reference to say that, yes, this water actually was used, or it's just a,
Error in the office.
okay,
So I think typically we would have gotten an actual reading
Right.
on the closing date, but the office gave us 0 readings on all 4 of those houses for
Yep.
closings. So I think that's the problem, is we don't actually have our number because we were given 0.
okay. So there isn't water that was used but isn't being paid
If
for?
we'd done an actual final
Yeah.
read, there would be no discrepancy.
But the read was
Okay.
never done.
I think I got that. All right,
The reading was done. We were just given a 0 reading.
right.
Right, there was an error in what actually was used and what was translated to
Right.
you. And so at this point, there's no, there's no way to backtrack it, I
Correct.
guess, is what I'm told.
Yep.
Right,
We
and the
can't
units have
define
been
who used
conveyed, right?
the water.
Hasn't there been conveyances?
April and May.
Yeah, so we're 2 owners into it now. It was you guys, and then it's the
Right.
current owner, so.
Right. And in the
nice
interest
to
of
put this-
closing this out, like, we're not trying to give anybody a hard time. We're offering to pay pro rata, which is more than we believe we use, but we'd like to close it out and do the right thing on our part. So we're fine with that. It sounded like that was gonna go- Yeah,
So you agree to these?
yeah, that's fine.
Those, okay, so we have agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question, Mark?
Yeah.
The remaining part of this pro rata, that's being billed to who? Like the president, or is there somebody in the middle here?
No, we won't be collecting
We're going to
that
absorb
revenue.
it.
We're going to absorb it as a town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, okay.
And just in full disclosure, let's talk about what the numbers are. What's the developer going to pay, and what is the taxpayer going to absorb?
So for 45 Checkerberry, the resident's going to pay $241.77, the developer $311.73. 20 Checkerberry, the resident is going to pay $76.40. The developer is going to pay $444.60. 70 Checkerberry, resident will pay $160.15. The developer will pay $259.26. 10 Checkerberry, the resident will pay $99.15, and the developer will pay $200.96.
Thank you, but am I missing something here? You're saying the resident, I thought that the taxpayer was going to absorb the
Right,
resident
so-
portion
Well,
of
there's-
this.
So 45 Checkerberry,
It's 1442.
the total
Total.
bill was $1,442.40.
Oh, okay,
So out of that,
I see. So the remaining.
resident's going to pay a portion, and the developer's going to pay a portion, but we're not going to collect the full amount.
Okay, I understand. So the leftover, whatever the difference is.
Right, so that's, that's
Yeah, I
true,
don't have
yeah.
that big.
yeah.
Oh, here it is.
All right, are there any other questions on this one?
Just want to thank Tom and Sarah for working through it at the town. I appreciate Mark and his, I know you've got lots of other stuff going on, and the administrative piece seems to be causing trouble for you, so thanks for dealing with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have one more abatement.
Yeah,
That's going to be for 275 North Street. For some reason, our office did an estimate on their bill, and it turned out that the house was vacant and nobody was living there. So they weren't using any water, so the estimate was incorrect. So we're going to have to abate the amount of the bill minus the base fee, which is $40.
minus the what?
Base fee?
Base-
So just being connected to the water system, you have to pay the $40 base fee. So we're gonna abate the estimated amount, which is
Okay.
$592.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay,
So do they commonly do estimated water bills, or was that just
Well, sometimes we will see that there's no usage, and it'll indicate that the water meter is broken, and we contact the resident, and they won't call back. So sometimes towns will estimate the bill to get their attention, and then they'll call up and they'll let us in.
That's a good way to do it.
or they didn't call you back because they weren't actually living there, so they figured they weren't using it? Got it. Okay.
okay, so we have, we're good to go. So we have a couple of motions, one for Checkerberry Circle and one for North Street.
I move that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners instruct the treasurer to collect the following amount of water and sewage usage charges totaling $1,216.55 for water service charges at Checkerberry Circle.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
I'll move that the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners instruct the treasurer to collect the following amount for water and sewer abatement charges totaling $592.20 for water service charges at North Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
One more motion.
I abstained the first part. I wasn't, yeah, I heard the last bit.
I move that
Yeah.
the board adjourn their meeting as water and sewer commissioners and reconvene as the select board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, okay. Let me just see if I can get
Aggregation.
the next order of business is I'm sorry, doing computers, is the municipal aggregation. And,
I know we all had, it with the, it's in this.
there it is.
It's packet number 2.
Yeah, packet number 2, okay.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Let me just give the background on this. Ms. O'Connor, as in Nancy O'Connor, worked with Colonial Power and Wendell Cern, who's chair of the Alternative Energy Commission, on organizing and disseminating Duxbury's aggregation plan for the required 30-day public review and comment period. The public review and comment period occurred from Tuesday, October 24th, 2023, through Friday, November 24th, 2023, by 12 noon. The plan was available on the Alternative Energy Committee webpage, distributed to subscribers through town news, with hard copies available at the Duxbury Free Library, the Senior Center, the Town Clerk's Office, and the Town Manager's Select Board Office. There is also a public informational meeting hosted by the Alternative Energy Committee, along with representatives from Colonial Power, on Thursday, November 16th. The next step is for the Select Board to vote to approve the plan prior to the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities and Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources filing, which will be completed by Colonial Power. Wendell, would you like to present anything?
Hi, Wendell Cerny, Alternative Energy Committee Chair at Duxbury Bay Ridge Lane. I do know the Colonial Power supposedly is logged in here, Michelle.
Are
Is
they
there
here?
a way to promote them? Yeah.
Yeah, whoever's out there, just let everybody
No,
in.
it'd be Denise Allard and Mark Cuppett.
That's fine, let everybody in, whoever it is. Thank you.
Okay, because, yeah, I expected, yeah.
Can we not see
I was
her?
in contact with Colonial
She's there
Power,
now.
and they said that they
Oh.
had logged in, but they had to be promoted. Because I anticipate they have answers to some questions that I know have been put to us.
Okay.
And if I may, did you all get copies of the information that we received? Brian had
Which-
asked a series of questions, and we made copies for you.
Oh, yeah, that was printed out on there.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
We
yes,
haven't
probably,
discussed
but I didn't know.
That's fine, just want to make sure you all had copies of it.
I'm happy to raise the same issues again so we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 82 pages here, so.
No, this was just 4.
Oh, no, oh, yeah, no, yes, this.
Okay, Brian, go for it.
Yeah, so we received a lengthy packet, and part of it was the draft municipal aggregation agreement. And for the reference of my colleagues, that was, let's see what page. All right, it looks like it starts on page 2 of the PDF.
Yep.
There were a couple of instances, rather than going to chapter and verse here, there were a couple of instances where the agreement made reference to the fact that savings could not be guaranteed. And my concern with that was, and I know that Alternative Energy Committee has been a great proponent for this, and I share the interest, which is to try to lower the generation piece of the bill for all of our residents, and that's why that would be the incentive to participate in this in the first place. And I saw a couple of references where it said that the savings couldn't be guaranteed, and I thought that was at odds with what the intent of this agreement would be. That is, if the basic generation supply is X, that this agreement would allow us to get something less than X through the competitive bid process. If we get some number that's more than X, I don't want to put our residents and ratepayers in a position where the thing we're doing to try to help lower the bill actually raises the bill. So there are a couple of places in here where I proposed striking that reference to say that the actual bill may be lower. Colonial Power came back, and this is what we have in front of us. They said, in that case, the savings disclaimer is a DPU requirement, and every mention of it in the plan was specifically placed there by DPU in prior proceedings. The savings disclaimer will need to be visible on every notice, letter, mailing, FAQ, press release, etc., per DPU requirements. So I understand from the reply that the disclaimer is required, so I guess that raises the question about how certain are we that this process will in fact result in savings to the ratepayers, because we're going through a pretty detailed process, and you've done a ton of work already.
Right, and I don't have it in front, but I submitted, the last time we had a discussion here as to whether or not to go forward with the proposal of the plan. I gave you a document that listed all those communities served by Colonial Power. It showed significant savings. They cannot guarantee, and by the way, I just communicated with them, they said that they're on. I would really, and they're not.
I'm trying to promote them to panelists.
Yeah.
And they're not taking it.
Oh, okay.
There's only, I can promote them, but they have to accept the promotion to join the chat.
But they are prohibitive from guaranteeing that the contract that is finally created at the end of this process, which means the process being, we submit the plan, which you had before you, and the community, including yourselves, had a chance to review. That gets submitted to the Department of Public Utilities. I consider that plan to include all those responsibilities that Colonial Power, as the broker, will take on. What it doesn't give us at the present time, because they have to get approval from the DPU, they go out and they start to see who are the energy providers, what's out there. And then, in conjunction with our desires as a community, based upon surveys that we do, meeting with focus groups, decide what we want to do. In other words, do we want to say, just go with the basic rate and perhaps increase the percentage of renewables by 5% more than Eversource is required to do? That's an option. You know, that could be the contract we decide upon, or the aggregation plan we decide upon. Or we could, like Plymouth, say 100% of our energy is going to be produced by wind. And we're not committed to that at this point. No one, Colonial Power cannot say that they can guarantee that for the life of the contract that we would sign after this plan is formulated with what we want in it, that it's going to stay lower than the basic level. But MAPC, other organizations, green consumers, they demonstrate again and again that there are significant savings that are garnered by communities that participate in municipal aggregation, which has been going on since 1997. And if that doesn't happen, individuals can opt out. So that is it. They can't guarantee it's going to be lower, but take a look at the history of it, and then say, okay, there it is.
So it's incumbent upon the individual ratepayer at that point to say, I'm out.
Exactly.
Right? But they wouldn't necessarily know that the base rate is lower unless they're looking at the default rate and examining that against what we've provided to them. And I'm just looking at it from myself and for my neighbors and everybody in town. If the town has gone through this process with the expectation that it's going to lower my bill, because at the end of the day, I mean, unless I'm misinterpreting this, that's how I'm interpreting this, it's going to lower the bills, then I don't want the residents to feel like they were misinformed or sold something that doesn't live up to what was advertised. So as long as we're clear that the bill could be more, and I guess the question then would be, how can we communicate that to the ratepayers so they know that it may be time to opt out?
Well,
I'd feel a little more comfortable than saying.
in the plan itself, you'll notice that Colonial Power in this, and, oh, hi.
Yeah, they're all there
hi,
now.
Mark, Denise. So, maybe I'll have you jump in here if I'm misrepresenting what the fact is, but am I doing okay so far?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, right. So there are many responsibilities that Colonial Power as our broker takes on, including informing the public of what the contract is. So if you go to the website of all those participating communities of Colonial Power, you will see right there in black and white what the rate is. It's not hidden. They see what it is. And as far as, say, in the life of that contract, when individuals get their bill, it's going to reflect what the contract is, and they can look at that and compare it with the base rate. Am I correct about that? So, so in that response that Colonial Power gave to your questions, I think they're showing that they are circumscribed by the regulations. They cannot say, we guarantee that you're going to. And so this is why you're voting here.
Right.
You say, you're voting here because you said, well, past history is that many communities have saved a lot of money by doing this. And the other part of it is that they've actually done something positive by their choosing, by having a higher percentage of renewables to be part of their energy mix. They're committed to lowering carbon emissions and directing some of our resources to the promotion of renewable energy. So that's what I would say.
Could one of the agreements that we enter into, I'm just throwing the hypothetical, if this board says, fine, the agreement's okay, we'll move forward, what control does the town have over determining what that pricing looks like? In other words, is there a committee that says, no, we want to do 100% wind, and therefore it's going to be 5 cents a kilowatt hour more, or something along those lines? How do we get into the actual numbers when it's time to choose?
Okay, so how about if I now just invite a representative from Colonial Power to speak to that exactly, because they have much experience in doing just what you said. How do we go about working with the community to come up with a pricing plan that works for that community? So someone from Mark or Denise or Joseph?
Mark Caponone, Colonial Power, 5 Mount Royal Ave in Marlboro. We have a whole process set up to make this simple for Duxbury. So unfortunately, there's still some more what I'll call regulatory procedures that needs to happen. It would have to go to the DOER, then we'd have to get an order out of the DPU. Once we receive that order, we have the ability to go out to the marketplace. And what we would do is we'd set a date and say, okay, we're going to look at pricing. I'm just going to make up the date. February 1st of 2024. We have our order, and that's the date. Everyone that, whoever was on the committee that wanted to take a look at these prices would have the ability to look at these prices. We would get all sorts of prices. I'm saying to you, mass class 1 prices, national, class 2, things of that nature. If you can think of it, we'll make sure that the marketplace is there. You look at those prices, we match them up against basic service, find out whether or not it is acceptable to the town. You might say, let's go on to final pricing in the following week or the next 2 weeks from then, we can go on to final pricing. Again, nothing has happened other than we've educated you on how we actually operate, what the market looks like. Come time, I'm going to say 2 weeks from then, final pricing is due. Pricing comes in identical. But for whatever reason, you've given the authority for the manager to sign off in between it's below basic service, anywhere between 6 months and 36 months, kind of those guardrails. And he can check. We have about 3 hours before it's due. We normally get pricing at 11, get it to you by noon, and we need someone to sign off by, say, 3 o'clock. If for whatever reason he's uncomfortable, we don't move forward. No problem, no harm, no foul. We can go out in 2 weeks, another month, what have you. But it's never done. The goal of aggregation is to take the veil of the opaque nature of energy and bring it out into the open so that you guys can make some decisions. And I just wanted to add that there's no way that anyone, so basic service changes twice a year. Having no idea what's going to happen in the marketplace, it would be a misnomer or a lie to say, yeah, I guarantee this is going to be under basic service, because We have no idea what those rates will be. No one does 6, 12, 18 months from now. I'm not certain what Mr. Putin's going to do in Poland. I don't know if that's the next one or not, but that will be a disruption, make no mistake. So from our standpoint, the way we go about it is, hey, here's what things have looked from a historic standpoint. Here's your current price. This is what we see happening in the marketplace, so forth and so on. So that, again, we can make an educated decision about what we see. The thing I like about it is, it's going to be the stability, and normally, I just want to say this, if past practice is anything about the future, we'll have savings as well. Make no mistake. But whether they're large savings or not, there's been leaner times, and lately the markets have been fluctuating wildly, so there's been some tremendous savings. And I'm more than willing to answer any question you might have on that pricing piece, because it is I just want you to know, the town decides when it wants to go, whether or not the pricing is acceptable. That's how it works.
You have a
Can I ask
follow-up,
a-
Brian, or are you okay?
No, I still need to wrap my arms around how that's going to work.
Yes,
but-
I'm struggling with that, right? So there's a 3-hour, what I heard was, if I heard correctly, there's a 3-hour window by which we need to decide whether we sign on to that plan and we execute that plan. And so therefore by the sounds of it, it's Rennie's decision to sign on to that plan or not.
It'd have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the way it is now with Sprague Energy when we buy through, and we will continue to buy through with Scott Werman.
But that's the
For the town.
town's.
That's the
energy.
town's-
That's how it is with
that's
any of
not
these groups,
Fernando's
though.
house and
No.
Amy's house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, and I appreciate, I think this is a very, very important part of this conversation.
Yeah.
But the other really, really big part of this conversation is what we're trying to do, which is further our goals towards protecting the environment and getting more green and, cutting down on all of our footprints. So, maybe the savings won't be, I think God, it would be awesome to be able to achieve that goal and save money. So that would be a double win, but even if we're paying about the same, but we're helping the environment, that still feels like a win to me.
But the rates come in there, and then Rennie has to choose whether I go 2% wind or what alternative energy, or go 5%. Who actually makes that decision? Again, those rates will be set. There'll be different tariffs for different use of alternative energy, and they go before Rennie, and he has that 3-hour window to decide how much alternative energy he's going to take on board. Is that how it works?
Is it my understanding that an individual ratepayer can choose to be as green or not as they wish? Is that?
So, and that's why Mark mentioned the indicative pricing, which is the first round, right? So what we would do is we'd list a bunch of products for an indicative pricing, which is informational purposes only, and there's no time limit on that. So basically we sit down and we can go over with whoever needs to be part of that discussion. And that's kind of when you can decide, okay, I see what pricing is for 5% more mass class 1 RECs or 25% more mass class 1 RECs. And that way, that's going to give you the knowledge. So when we do go to executable pricing and Rennie has to make a decision in a short period of time, you've kind of already decided what specific products you want to look at. And then those products would be, like you're mentioning, there would be a default product or a standard product that everybody is automatically moved to. So folks who are on basic service would automatically be moved to that product, whatever the renewable energy content is that the town decides. And then you could have 1 optional product, 2 optional products, whatever you decide, and those could have more or less renewable energy. You might want to have an opt-down to an equivalent to basic service, or you just want to have 2 additional renewable energy contents above your default. You can do that, but everybody will be moved to your standard, and then they would have to opt up or opt down, as the case may be, to whatever those optional are. But the goal is to get everyone educated during the indicative pricing round, and we could do more than 1 indicative pricing round if that's necessary. Prior to that, like Wendell mentioned, maybe there's a survey in town, so you feel more comfortable about what products we're actually getting pricing on. But until we go out with the town's load data and actually show you some pricing for those products, it's going to be hard for you to kind of focus in on a couple of them, if that makes sense. But we will certainly go through all of that so you're comfortable with what's on the table.
Mike?
Is there a way to, during that pricing period and thereafter, letting the public know what the base rate, the market rate for electricity is, so that they can make a knowing choice to opt out if they want to?
Yes, so when the program launches, everybody who's going to be automatically switched will, and there's a copy of that letter in the packet that was posted for public review. It'll have the town's options on it, as well as the Eversource basic service rates for residential, commercial, et cetera. And so folks can make an apples to apples comparison, maybe not apples to apples if the town is offering additional renewable, but they'll know what that price is, and they'll be told right on that letter, if you do nothing, you will be automatically enrolled. But if they choose to opt out, they can at that time. Beyond program launch, on the webpage, on our webpage that Wendell was mentioning, there's a link right over to Eversource. You can click right over at any time and see what the basic service rate is. We can provide public notices to the town that can be posted around town, same places that the plan was posted. It can go out on the news feed, right? That information can be readily accessible, so folks don't have to go digging for it. So there's always a way to see the price to compare for Eversource basic service.
Madam Chair, if I may, just a logistics issue. I think I understand a little better the mechanics of this, and I certainly urge the board that we keep a close eye on this as it matures, because I think there's a lot of moving parts, and we want to make sure that we're delivering to the ratepayers what we're telling them we're going to deliver. The other piece, and you, Wendell, you may have touched upon this the last meeting, I just don't recall the answer. For those who are currently on solar doing net metering, and for those who might be purchasing renewable energy credits themselves from some provider, how does this program affect what they're doing? I think the answer is that it doesn't, but maybe you could elaborate on that. Anyone?
Mark Capitone. It doesn't affect those programs. You're still going to get your net metering credits. All of those scenarios you mentioned are utility programs, and they're going to continue to deliver those utility programs. There is a slight difference. I just want to say that the utility will always deliver their credit at basic service pricing. So it goes back to your question about being over or under. So in the scenario that, let's just say that your aggregation is under, the solar user, anyone that's getting net metering, they'll get credited right now. It's like 17 cents, 17.1. If your price was say 14 or something, right around where market is today, you would see a credit for every kilowatt you put on at 17. But any kilowatts you used would be withdrawn at 14 cents, because you can have any competitive supplier you want. You don't need to make any changes at all. It happens seamlessly with the utility. Their system allows for basic service or third-party supply. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fernando?
Yeah, building on Brian's comment, it certainly help if we could maybe, I always must admit, I do like a PowerPoint slide or something, because there's a lot of words here, and then sometimes I see things better visually. Is this process kind of mapped out? And
We have had it before.
we've had it before?
We have.
This the actual process that talked
Yeah.
about where,
Yeah.
okay, I need to go ahead and find it then.
I'll look for it.
If you look for it, I'd
And I'll
appreciate it.
send it to you, okay?
Okay, good.
Sure we
We've
have.
already,
basically-
we've already voted on it to send it this far based upon that, so,
All right, then I just need to
Yeah.
refresh my memory.
yeah.
Okay.
And you may have been away, I
I
mean,
may have been away, or I definitely need a refresher.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Thank
I-
you.
If I may just interject, I think what's clear what we're asking to happen tonight is that we approve the plan as reviewed by the community and submit that to the DPW so that we can get that process going. And then I think it's very, very important that the public education and input come to us. So I can see a little discomfort in someone like the town manager being forced to make a decision and not have community input. I think we want that, and we want to have solicit from them well, what will be the contours of the plan? Who would be comfortable with 100% renewable as an option? How many of you would say 50% more? So that I think that we have to, as the AEC and working with yourselves and Colonial Power, work on, while this plan is sitting there in DPU, which could be a while, that we take the opportunity to educate the public and get the contours of this plan. What do people want? What are they willing to do here?
Cindy, I have a question.
'Cause I don't want to have to leave that burden of making decisions with the select board, with a town manager, without, knowing what the community wants.
Just a second, Randy. When you say a while, are we still looking at like 2 years?
What do you think?
It's an excellent question, so I should let you know that as of right now, we had a technical session on municipal aggregation with the brand-new chair, and they have decided to go in a different direction. Their micromanagement of municipal aggregation, according to them, is over. And we're in a process of writing regs that will have a timeline, which I'm hopeful you'll get put in under, of somewhere around 120 or 150 days, and you'll have an order out. Again, it's not lickety split, and that isn't in stone yet. But I do want you to know there has been a paradigm shift at the department about municipal aggregation and their ability to micromanage these programs. It does not make sense to the new chair. So I believe there's a new day coming. But I don't want anyone here holding their breath, because this is still DPU time. We'd still be looking at the fall at the earliest to get anything going, even if something happened swiftly here. I'm saying to you, it would still be late 2024 or 2025 before anything was to happen. But I do want to make sure that if there has been a change, and I don't expect these to be taken. It was up to 36 months. Most plans were taking 3 years. So I think you're going to be fortunate in the fact that the department has taken a fresh look at how they should be regulating municipal aggregation going forward.
But we still have plenty of time to do some public education
Yeah, and some refreshing of a certain member of the
and
board.
refreshing of Fernando. Rainey?
Yeah, I had a question for the folks at Colonial. In Kingston and Rockland, I believe you work in both those communities. I know at least Kingston.
Kingston.
Yes.
Yes.
Who makes the decision over there on the timing when the purchase happens? Is it my counterpart or is it somebody else?
It's the town, Keith. Yep, Keith
It is Keith?
makes the
Okay.
decision.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, he may, we do indicative round with him and then executable. He might speak to the board separately, but he generally signs off in the window.
And is it a 3-hour window? Because it's like when I used to work on the Cape, we were buying futures. Is it the same reason? That's what I thought. It's because of the futures.
Exactly.
Okay.
It used to be a little later in the day, given how volatile the market's been in the past few years. Mark mentioned 3 o'clock. Suppliers like to set the hedge a little earlier these days, so right around 3. Yep. And usually we get you pricing by about 11, so you have a 4 hour window right in there.
Yep, I'm very familiar with it. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
Beyond that, Wendell or anyone else, what other responsibilities would town manager and his staff have to take on, and are you comfortable with that, Rainey?
That was the reason that John Madden had resisted this for a long time, a few years ago, when this first came about, was because we didn't have staff to manage it. I don't now. There hasn't been a staffing change to do that. I don't know who's going to be in charge of it. I mean, it falls on me. I mean, making the decision on purchasing, when I was doing that, like in the Cape experience for the futures, that was doing it on the futures. That was just for the town. That was not for the residents. So we don't know. I don't know, how do they do it in other towns? Who's in charge of it? Just one person, or what office usually handles it?
The goal here is no adds to staff and no tax dollars. So from my position, there's no way we can stop it. There's so many third-party suppliers out there knocking on doors and being disingenuous suppliers. It wouldn't surprise me if the first 2 weeks you got some phone calls. The only thing we want you to do is tell them we've hired Colonial Power. Call this 1-800 number. They'll give you all the answers that you would need. That's all we do is serve Muni Ag in Massachusetts. We've been answering these questions for over 15 years. So we're completely staffed. We did it with the city of Boston, just to give you an idea, for our ability to scale up and whatnot. And again, I can't stop anyone to verify, hey, is this a town program? It's gonna come in a town envelope with the seal and all of that so that they can trust it. But the problem is nobody trusts it, and they'll wanna check with the town to make sure this is a town program backed by the town. That's what they'll wanna check.
So,
But-
more to Mike's point, if there's a complaint by somebody, who are they calling, you or me?
But hopefully Colonial, any complaint, we're gonna work through. So if there's an issue, right, let's just say they have an issue with the aggregation. That's gonna be a Colonial call. They have an issue with their bill, or the meter, or any of those things, they're gonna call Eversource, just like they currently would. This is only about the electron running through the wire, or the commodity in which you're helping purchase. That's all. So there aren't many issues other than I'm trying to get in the program, or I'm trying to get out of the program.
And you're comfortable with notice and to the public and how the website's handled, and
They do it all.
they do it all?
We don't touch a thing.
Okay.
Nothing.
All we do is pull the trigger on what the purchase price is gonna be.
Okay.
If it goes
That is
down the
correct.
next day, then I'm gonna be like, wait.
Plan on it.
What did you do?
Yeah, I've watched it happen time and time again. I've watched it happen.
Well, it can, of
I've
course.
watched it drop, I've watched it
I actually
skyrocket.
don't want that responsibility, but I'm glad to hear that there's going to be the whole public outreach, because I do think a big part of this is helping the public to understand. And I think as we go through this, and a question I'm gonna have, and I'm not gonna blindside you with it tonight, but I think there are a lot of seniors in our town that don't necessarily, use the internet. And those are the very people that I think are going to be frustrated with having a bill, and not understand the opt-in and opt-out and how to compare the rates that they're paying now or what they'd be paying at Eversource. So I am hopeful that as you start to educate and work with the public, as well as us, that we all understand what the options are for those folks as to how to, look at the comparable rates.
Yeah, and we're happy to come out, whether that's during the day or at night, especially, Council on Aging. We normally put on a quick little public outreach. Hey, we're gonna be there at 2 o'clock, after lunch or whatever, and answer questions so that they can one-on-one ask their questions to us. And if they're not comfortable, they just come up to the desk after we're done. But I fully agree, that's a huge piece of it. Making sure that, the older population understands what's happening and has the ability to make an educated decision whether they want to participate or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hi, I'm on the Alternative Energy Committee. My name is Glenn Carl, 90 Bow Street. And my superior has suggested that I weigh in for a moment. On the financial aspects, our colleagues from Colonial can provide, I expect, the exact source. If it was, what I'm going to say is from them or from data from the state of Massachusetts. But as I recall, as we've been working through this, of the 231 odd communities in Massachusetts that participate already in alternative green aggregate energy plans, the average savings per year per household, per client, I suppose you could say, is $600. Now, so that's about $5 million per year for the town of Duxbury's residents. If you
That's
look at
amazing if
$600
that's correct.
per
That's
person.
awesome.
That's on average. And the reason, I believe, to address, I can't read that far, Mr. Gleason, if I'm reading it correctly.
Whatever.
Glennon?
Glennon.
Sorry, pardon me.
That's close enough.
Close enough, okay.
That's,
Question about why you can't be guaranteed is, I view it, and I think it's comparable to the disclaimer we heard alluded to that you hear from a financial services company, that past results don't guarantee future performance. However, on average, the savings of a green aggregate plan consistently, or the costs consistently are lower than the default from Eversource would be. But it could be that the program that we sign up to decides on the contract, and the town manager pulls the trigger at that moment at X, and then 3 months later, something happens and prices go down for Eversource, and for that period of the contract, the duration of the contract, then the cost would be higher. But most of the time, it is the opposite. Costs are lower. As I said, it works out on average $600 per customer per year in Massachusetts. Is that correct? To Colonial.
Over the last year, it's actually probably a little low, but over time, I'd say it's probably, depending on your bill, around 8 or 10% savings per month. I like to use somewhere between $10 and $12 a month, somewhere in that range. So it'd be closer to 120 over the life of that. But over the last 18 months, the 600 is a very good number. But I just want everyone to remember. I don't need to remind you, but you were paying 25 cents a kilowatt hour when there were people next door paying 9 and 10 cents an hour because they had got into a contract. And they were protected during that spike. That's the stability we're talking about.
Another point on how do we come up with this mix that the town manager then has to sign off on quickly, or you will have approved prior to that we'll have X% of green and Y% from the standard mix provided by Eversource. That's the work of the committee, then submitted to you based on the recommendations and discussions with our colleagues. And it will be an equation we work out as to, well, what options, and we're thinking tentatively, do not hold us to this, of 3 options, sort of default, which would be just you have Eversource service, 100% green, and something between 50 or 75. I'm making this up. I can't speak for the committee on that, but that's roughly the direction we're going. And then that would be a function of what the current costs are assessed and recommended by Colonial on the broader market. And then when we think that when the time has come in this whole process, and we come up with that proposal, you would sign off to the mix, and then it comes down to this decision at the specific moment that the town manager and Colonial would work together on.
But if I'm understanding it correctly, the mix would be what the default was, and that each individual homeowner could change that mix to increase, am I correct? Could change the mix to increase to 100% or less?
Well, they'll have options.
Right, okay.
From
So
which to choose.
That plan is just for the default plan. If you don't do anything, this is what you'll get, but you can individually. Right, got it.
Right, and it's this plan default pricing, not the Eversource default plan, and that's where we get into the language of the agreement. And just, if I may, for a second, and to pick up, Glenn, on what you were saying about past performance doesn't guarantee future results, which my stockbroker tells me all the time, and personal injury attorneys say the same thing. That's why I was concerned about the language saying, it could be higher in the future. And I understand from Denise's response that DPU requires that. So I've got that so far, I understand. The other piece that I thought might be in the interest of the town, and Denise also got back to me on this, and it's part of our email here, is that in the event there are a couple of billing cycles and that delta continues to swing in favor of Eversource, that this thing would just go away because it's not being effective, at least in terms of cost. And I understand from Denise that that's not allowed either. So I'm okay, based upon what I'm hearing tonight and the information I got from Denise, and the remainder of the agreement, that the framework is workable, especially after all the hard work that the EAC has put into all this, the vetting I know that you've done. But you can appreciate the skepticism, maybe skepticism is too hard a word, but the caution, because to use a sales term, we talk about $600. That's an anchoring number that somebody's going to say, well, if I don't see $600 come off my bill, then I'm being defrauded, or the town lied to me, or whatever. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. A lot of phone calls to Rainey's office, and I know it has to do all with the education that will be done. That yes, the idea is to save you money and or allow you to do more of a mix for something that's less carbon intensive, right? But you as the consumer can make that decision. And this is the most important part, I think, in terms of providing comfort to the ratepayers, is if, despite all of our best efforts here, it's not working out for you as an individual, you can just go through the process, whatever that may be, and I think it's relatively straightforward.
It's clicking a button or
That you can,
making a
you
phone
can be
call.
out and back to the Eversource
That's
default.
To withdraw, I don't know if one goes on a website and literally clicks, or if one makes a phone call, but it's not more complicated than that to opt out.
So you can opt out whenever you want to.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And that's part that needs to be
Opt out and back
communicated.
in. Yep.
What?
Out,
Thank you.
not back in, and back in.
And there are, I think, as Ms. McNabb wanted to make it clear, we should keep in mind, it is important, there are the two aspects of financial advantage, likely, not guaranteed, but likely. But the ultimate point of this process is to reduce as much as possible the carbon emissions from the town of Duxbury. And I believe that this green aggregation is the single most powerful step that a community can take, because in one fell swoop, 16,000 people, in the case of Duxbury, could largely remove one of the largest carbon producing step or act that any citizen takes. You know, there's transportation, home heating, and electricity. And this would address the electricity aspect of carbon production by an entire community. It's a stunningly powerful step that a community can take, and most always at a savings to the consumers. So it's a spectacular way to move forward.
Are we advertising this as green? I think that's the first time I've heard that.
It is?
That this is green as opposed to a savings process.
Yeah,
No,
green.
it
It is
always
green.
been.
It's always been to get us to be more carbon neutral.
Is
That's
that,
the whole
that's up to the
behind it.
individual homeowner as
That-
to whether they want to be on it.
Right.
Absolutely.
right.
Okay, yeah, so we're not forcing people to go all wind if they don't want to be on wind.
If they want to
Right.
stay with Eversource, they stay with Eversource.
Okay.
There's
all
no
right,
compulsion.
all right, Okay.
But the municipal aggregation rates will be tied in to green energy.
Yep.
Whether it's 100%, 75%, 50%, you can choose, or you can just stay where you are now.
Okay.
And it really isn't, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, you know, they're trying to encourage people to, you know, use the heat pumps, change from your fossil fuel, you know, heating systems that most of us have here in town, and get the splitters, and those all use electricity. So this, you know, you really, there's no better time to make a bigger impact, I think, for this than
And there's really
than
no
now.
better step. I mean, I've looked at, as many of us have, to switching from, in my case, gas to heat pump or some other source for heat and/or electricity. And even with all of the incentives, state, local, tax, federal, and so on, it's still a substantial net cost, although it has all sorts of benefits for the environment, and then it can save you money. The payback time will be a number of years. In this instance, the payback time is instantaneous because one does nothing unless one decides that they don't want to do it, in which case they press the button saying, I'm staying with things as they have been.
All right, how are we doing? Are we?
Just
Right
one
here,
final,
Robert.
one final
Okay.
question, is that okay? No, and if I already asked this question, because I've forgotten the answer. Was it, so how does your organization, how does Colonial Power make money?
I'll take that. Mark Capital again. So on the bill that you're going to receive from Eversource, our fee is 0.001. In the business, they call it a mil, or it's 1/10 of a penny. So inside the bill during pricing, we're going to show you, it will come with our mill in it. We'll also let everyone know on that opt-out notice. The price came in at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, exactly 10 cents. I'm just making this easy for all of us. On your bill, it will say 10.1 cents a kilowatt hour. Then everyone will pay their bill to Eversource. Eversource will send on the supply payment to the supplier X. Supplier X turns around and sends us our fee. All the kilowatts times 0.001. So if, just so that I can, make everyone understand, if they say that you're to use, the Department of Public Utilities says use 600 kilowatts as an average homeowner. You're an average homeowner, that 600 would work out to about 60 cents a month. 1/10 of a penny, using the math that the department says. Now, if you use a little bit more, the fee might be a little bit more. If you use a little bit less, the fee might be a little bit less.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And there's no termination fee for residents, right?
Never. You can come back and forth whenever they please. On a meter read, you can't change more than once a month, but yes, you can come and go and come and go.
Thank you.
Everybody
You're
all
welcome.
set?
Yep.
Are there any thing more from the audience people would like to say? David?
David Amory, Puritan Road. I just really want to tip my hat to the Alternative Energy Committee for all the effort they put into this. It's so important, and it's very interesting hearing the conversation that you, the Select Board, are having. It means a lot, and I serve on the on the Coastal Resiliency Task Force, where we're wrestling with how we adapt to what's happening to our environment as a result of climate change. And I think we cannot be continuing even thinking about this unless we are also considering, at least as seriously, the reduction of fossil fuels, the use of fossil fuels, our carbon footprint. If we're doing one without the other, it doesn't make sense. So we have to adapt, and one way we can really adapt well is to work hand in hand with those producing alternative forms of energy and thinking that way. So thank you, and thank you all. It means a lot.
Thanks, David.
You-
All right, are we ready to vote?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll move that the Select Board approve the Town of Duxbury Community Choice Power Supply Program Aggregation Plan prepared by Colonial Power Company Incorporated as presented for submittal to the DOER, our Massachusetts Department of of Energy Resources, and the DPU, the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right.
Thanks for all your help.
Thank you very much.
Another step is done.
Can I just make one comment? I really have to recognize Nancy O'Connor, who did an unbelievable job working with Colonial to put all of this together. And the other thing I have to say is that I think that we should see in Colonial Power's continued presence here and availability. For me, it's affirming, meaning to say, okay, I think we made a right decision here, and I think that we can work with these people. They've come through, they've done what they said that they were going to do, to provide us with great information, and they're willing to help us with public education. And so I just wanted to recognize them too. So, and thank you for a wonderful discussion. The fact that you posed those questions is like in the past, Rennie, remember there were questions that it's very helpful because it gets things out in the open and helps us to say, okay, that's something that needs to be clarified, and we need to work on that. So it's appreciated. Yeah.
Not all, and if you don't mind, I have a question for you after we're done with this.
Sure.
If you could stick around for just a little bit.
Okay.
It's related to the warrant.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you, all of you from Colonial
Thank you.
Power, for joining
Yes.
us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you. All right. Where are we? We are
Utility
at a
poles.
utility pole on 878 Tremont Street, which is awfully close to here.
Actually, it is here, Madam Chair. This proposed pole is in addition to the collection that we have out back, and it's related to the new DPW facility.
All right.
Where are we in our path?
I don't
Your
know.
packet 4, page 1.
How did you know that?
And
I'm organized.
just so the audience knows, the request was reviewed by Sheila, our DPW director, as well as Brian McCusker, who's our senior project manager from Weston and Sampson. and it relates to the new DPW facility, and they both recommend the approval of this installation.
Okay, that's great. Do we have any other information about this that we need to discuss?
I just want to know visually, I was trying to look at that picture, where is it? Like,
On the bend, as you go back down there, it's further down back. You can't really see it.
okay. Is it the town of Duxbury's property?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That was my only question.
I move that the select board
I saw that picture, I was
executes the
confused.
license and grant permission to Verizon New England Incorporated and N-Star Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy to access, erect, construct, operate, maintain, connect, extend, replace, and/or remove pole 446/1.5, along with the necessary conduits, cables, wires, anchors, guys, supports, and/or fixtures on Town Hall property located at 878 Tremont Street as presented, and with the condition that Verizon New England Inc. and/or N-Star Electric contact the Duxbury DPU at least 84 hours,
48.
I'm sorry, at least 48, what did I say?
88, yeah.
At least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the project, along with other conditions that may be requested by the select board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, okay.
Sorry, but Jim Murphy, he's from, I believe he's from Colonial or?
I smell burning sugar.
I don't know if he had
Yes,
this
I
on
do
there.
too.
Smells good.
I don't know. Mr. Murphy, are you here for a particular,
The poll license, I haven't done it for the poll license.
oh, for the poll
It's
license?
already
Yeah.
done.
That's-
Okay, well,
he
we're all
just
set
popped
with
in.
it.
Okay.
We're all done.
You all said it. Okay, I'm representing Verizon on it.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're all set,
He had his
Mr.
hand up and I'm
Murphy.
like,
They just approved it.
You did a great, you
You
did
did a great job. You
Yeah.
can
You did a
your
good job
billing for
then.
that.
You're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good work, Mr. Murphy.
yeah,
Okay.
like, there was nobody there, I looked up and there he was, I'm like, and then he had his hand up, I'm like,
Oh,
It's
okay.
all right. It's all good.
Rainey, town managers report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our office received a letter today from the library trustees, which I'll read to you. To the members of the Duxbury Selectboard, the Board of Library Trustees had planned to participate in a joint meeting tonight with the Select Board to interview and select an interim appointee for the current vacancy on the board, but we have decided to keep the position unfilled at this time. As we were directed at our joint meeting with the Select Board in mid-November, the trustees and staff reached out to the community to announce the vacancy and our intention to temporarily fill it. At that time, our initial candidate decided not to proceed with the appointment process. Over the holiday season, we had two responses to our invitation, but one dropped out because of a family medical need, and the other was not reachable for an interview in a timely manner. As it is now January, nomination papers are available at the office of the town clerk for election of a trustee for the remaining 2 years of the 3-year term. Therefore, our trustee interview subcommittee has decided not to recommend an interim trustee in favor of allowing the community to fill the position in March. We continue to have a quorum at our meetings with our current membership of 5 elected trustees. We are confident that the board can continue to oversee library operations with 1 board vacancy. We will look forward to having a full complement when the new trustee is duly elected. We thank you for your attention and direction with this appointment process. The board has developed processes for interim appointments that will undoubtedly be helpful when vacancies occur in the future. And vaccines.
And back.
All right.
All our best wishes for 2024, Lester Lloyd and Martha Dennerson from the Board of Library Trustees. Another update for you. On the seawall, our seawall engineer, Pat Brennan, provided me with the following update, and this is from him. We have sent updated plans to NHESP, and we received feedback from the Army Corps that the project may be submitted under the Mass General Permit through the pre-construction notification process. This requires a waiver for shoreline stabilization over 1,000 linear feet, but the Corps reviewer agreed that the project meets the eligibility requirement in that it protects public transportation, most notably roads. I have also received feedback from Mass DEP that since we're filing under the Mass General Permit and we meet certain requirements of less than 5,000 square feet of permanent disturbance and less than 100 cubic yards of dredging, and it received local orders of conditions, the project is also eligible to fall under the Mass 401 Water Quality General Permit. Therefore, no individual permits are required. All of the information required for the pre-construction notification will be submitted to the Corps and Mass DEP this week. and the review time is more condensed, so that we should still be on track to go out to bid sometime this spring. And our timeline remains the same for now, and Pat will update it after we submit to the Corps and receive some initial feedback. Let's see, the next thing I have is an update on the 2024 application for dam and seawall grants. Today, Candace Martin asked me about the 2024 application for dam and seawall grants and offered to submit a grant proposal on behalf of the town. I gratefully accepted her offer and advised our engineer, Pat Brennan, of the same, and he offered to provide any information that she may need for the application. My sincerest thanks to Candace for that offer.
Thank you, Candace.
Yes.
Yes,
And
Yeah, she's been great with the seawall and with the help with the.
With the PFAS, she's project
been
managing that bit,
terrific.
yep.
Yeah.
And finally, with respect to the FY26 budget, sort of ancillary to that, work on the annual and special town meeting warrant continues, and I hope to have a draft of the annual town meeting warrant out tomorrow, which I will email to all of you.
Great.
And that's
Okay.
that.
Rainey, not to put any pile on anymore, but do you have a general sense or a list of what meetings between the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, will be covering the different articles and the different parts of the budget?
Not yet. That's coming, but I don't have it yet.
Okay.
I will once I
So
have
we don't have like that we don't do the same thing as, that we can go to their meetings if there's something.
Yeah,
But
it's,
typically, that's what's been happening the last couple of years, is the Finance Committee will have the proponents of the articles come in and review them.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, where they're needed. Like the first 12 articles are sort of rudimentary. It's operating and capital and.
Maybe
capital
they've
light.
already reviewed that.
They're the
Yeah.
boilerplate articles. And then you get into the heavier ones, like the PFAS articles. And if there are proponents for those, they usually show up at the Finance Committee and the Select Board attends.
Or if it's more of a Select Board function, we hold it,
Yeah.
Right.
and someone else, and
Typically, the order is that the Finance Committee meets more frequently than the board.
Sure.
Because you guys are meeting once a week and they're meeting twice a week, so that's kind of what happens. So if you want, this came up last year. Do you want me to post? Actually, sure. I don't have anybody to take your minutes, though.
so this is.
No,
I
I think it's what we normally do is we don't discuss, but we can attend. As long as we don't discuss and we listen to the conversation. And the Finance Committee conversations are usually pretty robust anyway, so
Yeah.
I think they ask most of the questions that are.
Because the problem I run into is I won't have coverage for minutes.
I know, but I
So
mean,
we don't
we
need
we
to.
normally,
So with that, I won't.
I think we can benefit from the conversation.
yes,
which-
from
Oh, yeah,
listening.
sitting and
This
listening,
is-
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
this is, 3 years ago, before we started this transition, there was, the proponents for an article would come before the Finance Committee, and there
Yeah.
wouldn't be any Select Board members there.
Yeah.
And then they'd come and we'd hear it, they'd go before the Select Board. And oftentimes, there are differences maybe in the presentation, or they want, it really does, I think, it not only mainstreams the process for everybody involved, but it's really helpful for everybody to hear the same presentation, the same conversation, and the comments that everybody, brings to the meeting. So even if we can't make a decision,
Yeah.
I
I'll-
think if we can
Because you're
ask
going to do that
questions-
anyways. I'm going to have agendas in the future, call it end of January, all through February, where I'm going to do what I usually do, which is I plug in a bunch of articles and I tell you, okay, here we go.
Yep.
Here's this group, these 10 articles. What say you? Because you will have already heard the discussion, or you'll have the benefit of actually being able to look back at it on video.
And-
Go,
But
And
Mary McKinnon did a really good job. She basically put together an agenda for the Finance Committee
Mhm.
with dates as to who was coming along to talk about the operating budget. So
Right.
that was helpful for me to be able to select which ones I want to
Mhm.
attend. If we could do the same for the articles.
Yeah, that's what I do in that giant document that
Yep.
I've done called the one-liners.
That's right.
That way I know who's doing what and when.
And just to remind you, last year when the Select Board members were at the Finance Committee, and we did take several votes, I actually recorded the votes
Oh, yeah,
and
we did.
then
That's right, you did,
let
actually.
Nancy, know what, so she
Right.
was able to.
That's toward the back end when they start voting their thing.
Right.
When I say the back end, I'm talking like it's roughly 8 weeks to town meeting, meaning when we get to like, call it 3, 4, 5 weeks out, when votes can actually start happening, that's when we'll figure out what to do for posting, so if you do take action. But in the next, call it the next 4 to 6 meetings, I wouldn't expect you to be taking any action, thus we wouldn't post.
Are there some articles, though, that would be more beneficial to come before us primarily rather than the Finance Committee?
I'm gonna,
Or both?
who's covering the finance committee? Is it Matt? Yeah, it's gonna be the same amount of exposure because you've got the same platform for the news, you've got the same platform for video access.
I'm just talking about the,
Substance of the
Yeah, if
article.
we
right?
need to-
the substance of the article, whether it's more,
Let's use an example. Let's use two real examples. There are two articles for PFAS.
right.
If you want them to come in, I'll ask them to come in.
Yeah, I mean, that would, I mean, that's.
You will,
I
it
mean,
will be redundant because you will hear probably the same presentation that you would hear at the finance committee, but if you'd
Well,
like.
why
Yeah,
don't we
but
double up
we
on
can't all
that?
make the
Yeah,
finance, that's the
I
thing.
mean, we can't all make it. I mean, that
Yeah,
would give us,
right.
we'd have to be out 3 nights a week.
Right,
Yeah.
but what I had also said that we did last year was you have the ability to watch it again on video.
Yes, no, that's
know.
true. That's true.
But some of this is things that we've driven. You know, these
Yeah.
are the PFAS we've,
Once I get the
example,
warrant
with the-
pushed out,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the finance could come to our meeting on
oh, certainly,
PFAS,
yeah.
you know,
like that.
or
because they can
watch
do
it
virtually.
online or.
Yeah.
right.
Are there any citizen petitions this year or anything?
things like that.
The closest thing I've got, and no, actually, it's not a citizen's petition, it's a proposal from you and the planning board, and that's for the acceptance of Cooper Hill Road. Aside from that, I don't think I
Well, that
have
wouldn't go
any.
to the finance committee anyhow, would it? Do
Yeah,
they
they all
vote on
do.
that? No.
Every
Yeah,
article
they all
does.
Well, so that, you know,
I don't have any citizens petitions.
Cooper Hill Road, that's not the one.
Right over
we
here.
didn't even
Oh,
do
Alden.
the
Alden.
layout. Oh, okay.
the one off of.
Yeah,
Alden.
Kevin Sealand's project. Let me get the thing, let me get it a little more finished, and then
Okay.
you'll be able to tell me what you want people to come in on. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
sure,
Because 4th of July celebration,
yeah.
I don't think you're gonna need anybody here. PFAS, you might want to have people here.
Right.
You see what I mean in terms of the weight of the article?
Right, yep.
But someone from the 4th of July committee might want to come in,
They might, yeah, they're
hello.
very good about that, actually.
and someone might have to recuse himself.
Somebody might have to.
Or they might just want to go to the finance committee.
I just like
There you
making Amy blush.
I know you just do that. All right.
You'll look at it, and you'll individually know, and, you'll say, okay, yeah, this one, this one, this one.
And I know we've had a couple of missed funny meetings, and, it's been and we're getting ready to gear up for town meeting, but the updates on some of the big things like,
I meant to
water.
bring it, but I ran out of time.
That's okay.
Oh.
The water stuff and
Yes.
also DPW.
What are we talking about? The agenda?
The long-range agenda.
Yeah.
The thing that you and I and Nancy look at and we update, and I
Yeah.
forgot to print off tonight.
Yeah.
But I'll shoot it out to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then you
But
can take a peek at that
to
now.
have it at the meeting, then everybody gets, the benefit of the
Right. No, I meant
updates,
I'll
so-
email to all of
absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely, I think that's important. All right, you all set then?
Yes, ma'am.
That was great. So the committee appointments and reappointments. And here, right here.
Okay. I move that the Duxbury Selectboard appoint or reappoint the following. An appointment to the Recreation Activities Committee of Gary Williamson for a term to end 6/30/24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
The
you,
following
Gary.
boards and committees have available seats: Economic Advisory Committee, the Finance Committee, Fiscal Advisory Committee, King Caesar Advisory Committee, and the Nuclear Advisory Committee all have one seat available. If anybody is interested in volunteering on a board or committee, you're encouraged to fill out a talent bank form. Those can be found at the town's website under the Forms and Documents tab.
I might also add that the Coastal Resiliency Task Force has a couple of openings, if that could be added to the list. And so anybody that might be interested in coastal resiliency could fill out a talent bank form. Okey dokey. One-day liquor license requests. I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is.
Madam Chair, before we get into that one, I just want to disclose, I think this is an event that one or more select board members may attend.
Oh, trivia night, that's so much
Yeah.
Oh, I want to
fun.
do that
So,
this year.
so I just want to disclose that we may be attending that as a group, or
So
at
we
least
might have
some.
to we might have to
So-
post it.
But that no, what my point being is that we don't have any financial interest in any of the proceedings. We would be there
You
mainly
mean we don't
solely
win
as
money, Brian?
participants.
We're not going to win
No, no, no,
money?
no.
Don't.
Get it on the record, so if we show up, yeah.
When is it? March 23rd. Oh, let's do it.
That sounds good to me.
We had fun, Brian and I and Fernando
Yep.
Yeah.
And
went
Jane, yeah, my
last
wife
year.
was there,
And
yeah.
Jane and
I
my
blew
husband
it.
Rick,
Yeah.
Brian's son.
Brian's son was there,
Is he
yeah.
available this year? Because he was
He
really
was really
good.
good.
I think he's going to be heading back, but I get to use his mug in the meantime.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
we'll have to convince him to come.
I know.
He was really
anyhow.
good.
Okay.
But we didn't get
All right.
WD-40 right, though.
All right, so we have no
Sorry you lost
financial
sleep on that.
interest in
We
this.
have no financial interest. I move that Ms. Barbara Mello, as a representative of the Duxbury Rotary Club, is granted a one-day wine and malt license to hold a trivia night on Saturday, March 23rd, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Duxbury Senior Center, 10 Mayflower Street, contingent upon the conditions of the license.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Huh? Yeah. Put it on your calendars now.
Yep.
All right, so I know we have, I don't know if that's, oh dear. We have minutes
Yes.
somewhere.
I saw them.
I know, I'm all over the place.
I think they're here, number 3.
We have an executive, and a
Yeah,
couple
number
open,
3.
too.
I'm going to just read off your computer, I can't
Yes.
find mine.
Might have been two.
So the first are executive session minutes from 12/11/23.
I move to approve the 12/11/23 Select Board's executive session minutes with the contents to remain confidential until the need has passed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Okay, and then we have open session minutes from 10/2/23, 10/16/23, and 12/11/23. Are we going to have any conversation? Aye, Brian, great.
Well, I'm okay with the 16th. It's the October 2nd and December 11th where I submitted edits. Did they go back out to everybody?
I did send them back out. but
Okay,
I did
that's what
make the correct-
we need to do. I need to let everybody know what I propose changing.
Okay, so the
So why don't we just,
proposed,
you want to just do the 16th and then do the other ones
Yep,
another date?
yep.
Okay, so I'll move to approve the 10/16/23 Select Board open session minutes as presented.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so it's better for
Supposed to abstain.
Michelle,
Fernando, Can Fernando abstain?
I abstain.
abstain, sorry. So you'll send those out to us with the edits? Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, there were no edits on the 16th,
There were no, yeah.
Just the
Right,
2nd and
just-
the
you're
11th.
gonna send-
Yeah.
Yep.
but I can tell you what the edits were.
Oh, you want to tell us right now?
Well, there are not a ton of them.
Sure.
Oh,
But just
okay.
so you're aware of what the edits were. So on the October 2,
Yeah.
there's a great deal of detail under open forum.
Okay. Oh,
A lot
yes.
of back and forth.
Oh, good, I'm glad you cleaned that up.
So what I recommend it read as follows. After the introduction of the individual, complained about multiple issues and made accusations against the town manager,
Oh, yeah, I remember
that he was rude and short with the chair. We'll leave that in. Ms. Larrett Fiorini said that they would take his complaints under advisement,
Yep,
strike the rest of it
yep,
until that the individual threatened to come to every meeting and express his discontent, period. At this point in the meeting, the individual was behaving aggressively. The Duxbury police were present to maintain the peace and protect public safety. And the rest of it, leave as is. I didn't see a lot of value of
That's
agreed.
good.
the
yeah.
individual back and forth.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else on that set of minutes, just the open forum.
Okay.
So I'll move to accept those minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstained because I wasn't there for that
You
one.
have to abstain. That's correct. All right, so now we have the 1211.
1211, so I think I had a couple of small edits on this one. A
12,
lot of this was Rainey's report. So if we
Rainey's
go,
report?
there was a lot read into the record. So the first
Oh, I
edit is on page 11 of 13.
Oops. Okay.
We were discussing, this is the second to last paragraph, we were discussing the crematory budget. I had proposed that we add 2 sentences, because I didn't see that. I know we talked about it, but I didn't think you see it captured. It was, this is at the end. I would add, Mr. Glennon argued that the crematory is one of the few budget areas where the town should be generating revenue rather than covering costs, because we are serving the entire region, not just our own residents. He noted that Duxbury is $75 less expensive than Plymouth and $25 less expensive than St. Michael's in Boston for basic cremations.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
where are you proposing to
At
put
the end of
that?
this
Right at the
category.
very end of the second to last paragraph on
Okay,
page
this is-
11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to point out what the discussion was.
Yeah.
And then the most important one, under section 8 announcements, under part 2, Duxbury dog walking, I had urged residents to consider obtaining dog license and walking permits online, observing that the process is very efficient and easy.
That's very good, Brian.
People need to know.
I don't know if I'm going to support that edit.
That was it.
All
That
right.
was good.
I will move to accept the December 11th, 2023 minutes as amended.
Second, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have any announcements?
There are no announcements? 'Cause-
Are there
I think
announcements?
there are.
Thought there were.
Where are they? Oh, I see them right
I'm going
here.
to bounce back.
Oh, no, that was our, no,
No,
never
those are
mind.
in the minutes.
Want me to read them? I got them, if you want me to.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Go.
Number 1, waiting list for commercial mussel and razor clam licenses. Just a reminder that individuals on the waiting list for commercial mussel and razor clam licenses must renew their application annually within the month of January. The sign-up sheets are posted in the Select Board's office. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. The town will be closed on Monday, January 15th, in observance of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There will not be a Select Board meeting that night. Please note that beginning January 1st, 2024, all event permits and one-day liquor licenses are due 45 days prior to the event date. Updated event requests can be found on the town's website under Departments, Town Managers page, and then see the left side of the green page. Click on one-day liquor license application and event permit application. And the next scheduled Select Board's meeting will be Monday, January 22nd, 2024. That's it.
Just also on the, for the select board's knowledge, did we have a executive session that night?
Which night?
I don't know, do
The
On the
22nd?
22nd at 6?
we do, okay.
So
I believe it.
Yes,
I've been buried in the warrant all day, so.
it's about that section, it's about, that's, yes.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
6 o'clock on
That one.
the
Yeah, that one.
22nd. Okay. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So yeah, be here at
Second.
six, guys.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.